Hey folks, Jesse Randall with MSU Forestry Innovation Center out here in Escanaba. We've had some questions come in and we've had some interest in raising mushrooms, so cultivating mushrooms to eat. And so we're also up here in the Northwoods blessed with a lot of different tree species that we can thin out of our timbers and grow different mushrooms. And so we've worked with a couple different suppliers to bring you this how-to video. And what's going on in the background is about a week and a half ago, we had our workers go out and harvest some different varieties of trees. So we were doing some thinning in our poplar plantations, and we're matching those poplar logs. They're about 3 to 6 inches in diameter. They're about 40 inches long. And what Elle is doing in the background is she's using a high-speed drill to drill holes about every 6 inches in a checkerboard pattern across that log. And then what we're going to do is we're going to inoculate those logs with the fungus that we want to fruit. And so what we've done is we've purchased these oyster mushroom spawn plugs from a supplier out of Wisconsin. And what they are dowels that have been inoculated with mushroom spawn, with a known strain of mushroom spawn. And these will be tapped and driven into those logs. And then what we're going to do is we're going to show you how we seal off that log after it's been drilled, after these dowels have been driven into the log. We're going to seal it with cheese wax, and then we're going to stack it over in our windbreak. We're going to keep those logs stacked. We're going to keep those logs watered down a couple times a week. For the first 6 months to a year, depending on the strain that we use, we're not going to get any mushrooms. They're going to sit there. The mycelial mats will grow and the decay process will begin. And then what we're going to do is next spring, we'll show you another video how we prepare those logs to fruit. We'll tip them upright and we'll start watering them again. And as those mushrooms form, we'll begin to harvest them for sale or for us to eat. And so it's a really simple process. You know, you're looking at a bag of mushroom spawn dowels that run you about $30 or $40, and that's going to inoculate anywhere from 20 to 30 logs. And you can make a lot of mushrooms in a short amount of time. Now these mushrooms, these oyster mushrooms in the poplar, probably are going to only last 4 to 5 years because poplar decays rapidly. When we move on to our shiitake mushroom spawn into the beech or oak that we use, we're looking at an 8 to 10 year return on those because the oak and the beech decay so much slower than the poplar. So why don't we join Elle and you'll see the process start to finish. She's drilling some holes. I'll tap in these dowels, and then as the wax heats up, there's a fine line between being too hot and having the wax run off and being too cold and having it stick and spread nicely. So what we have here is just standard cheese wax, and I'm melting this down. And so whatever you do, go out and buy yourself the cheapest pot possible. Don't grab your best cookware or your spouse's best cookware, because you're not going to get this thing clean again. This will forever be filled with wax. What we're doing is we're melting this down. I'm going to pull this off here in a minute, and I use an old paintbrush, which I probably should get in there so it begins to melt as well. What we're going to do is we're going to dab each one of these, and then we're going to coat the end of every log. That coating of the end of the log, because the logs lose so much moisture through the ends of the log, we don't want them to dry out very fast. We need to retain moisture in that log so the mushrooms can begin to grow. And we're going to want to water these logs 2 to 3 times a week while they're in the windbreak this first year, so we get a really good take. If your mushrooms or if the spawn doesn't take, if it doesn't begin to grow rapidly, other fungi, other non-beneficial fungi will begin to decay that log. And you won't know what your mushrooms are, or it won't be the right decay fungi. So we're overloading these logs with the type of mushroom that we want, and that is oyster. What you can see now is Elle is prepping those spawn plugs, and she's putting one per hole. I would highly recommend, if you're going to do this on any volume, to buy the conversion kit for that angle grinder. It makes drilling these holes so much faster and so much cleaner. And you can see a single tap, she's got it in, and each of those have now inoculated that log. What Elle has done is she's tried to drill a hole every 4 to 6 inches up the length of that 40-inch log. She's moved over a couple inches and have offset in a checkerboard pattern. So we really are covering the entire circumference of that log in the type of mushroom, fungi, or spawn that we want to grow. The one thing I will say is if you order these by mail, keep them in the refrigerator. They will keep for up to 6 months. The dowels will keep 6 months in the refrigerator. And you know, best to do it in the spring or fall. Late summer is oftentimes really hard to get to take. She's working away. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start covering these guys with wax. I'm gonna put my mask on because I'm gonna be a little bit closer than I like to Elle, because we're working outside. So what I'm gonna do is just take this over, and now I have to follow her, and you can see this is just a little bit too warm and it's starting to run off the side. You also want to do this outside because it is also quite messy, and you know, don't wear good clothes when you're doing this. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just covering these, and you really want to wax them, because what that'll do is it'll keep these guys from drying out. There we go. So we keep turning these guys till we get all the way around. If you're lucky, you can do 2 rows at once. It doesn't take much to fill that in, but you do want to have it seal off. Like I said, it's just time consuming. So if you're willing to do a little bit of time, you can also see folks have put mushroom logs that they have inoculated. They're raw logs, and I've seen them on Craigslist for as high as $20. So even if you don't want to raise the mushrooms yourself, you can market these logs to individuals that only want 1 or 2 logs. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and do a quick paint on the ends. Again, this is where you're going to make a big mess as that solidifies. All right. So now that has been waxed pretty good. I'm going to go around and do the other side. Try not to get the wax all on Elle. And a lot of times what we'll also do is we will take this and have a big vat of wax, and we'll just dip the ends of the log in the wax to make it seal off. So really, you've just witnessed the creation of 1 mushroom log. So again, within about 6 months, you're going to see that begin to bear some fruiting bodies, which are mushrooms. Within a year, that should be in full production, because these are poplar logs raising oyster mushrooms. When we jump over to the oak logs and the ironwood, the maple, and the beech, which we're going to do, that's where we're going to raise our shiitake and our maitake mushrooms.